A few years ago, my health was in the gutter. Chronic fatigue, burnout, and a bunch of weird symptoms that no one could really explain. I felt like I was 80 years old even though I was still in my late 20s. Waking up exhausted, constant brain fog, strange food reactions, gut issues, you name it. That's when I knew that I had to take matters into my own hands. I tried a lot of things that I talk about in other videos, but one habit turned out to be so powerful that I wanted to dedicate an entire new video to it. Eating a big plate of vegetables every single day. Not just occasionally, not just when I felt like it, every single day. It's been way over 1,000 days since, but I thought that the number would make for a better title on YouTube, so let's stick with 1,000 days. Let me share what exactly happened, how I did it, what the pros and cons were, and if I recommend this to other people. Okay, so back when I felt at my worst, I was looking for things that would gently support my body without overwhelming it. Even though supplements and other lifestyle measures like meditation were a big part of my recovery, food always seemed to be the best place to start. I was already a nutritionist at that point, so I was already eating fairly healthy, but decided to dumb down my diet and build at least one meal per day around two main things. One, cooked vegetables, and two, some sort of quality protein, like meat, eggs, or low-mercury fish. In the beginning, I actually ate 2 full plates of vegetables a day, one for breakfast and one for lunch. That's how crazy I was about this. It gave me structure and made sure that I was getting fiber, minerals, and a wide range of nutrients. But over time, especially when life got busier and I started traveling more, I found that sticking to just 1 plate per day was easier to maintain. And it still gave me around 90% of the benefits that I will talk about later. So that's what I stuck with. When I talk about my veggie habit with other people, they often ask if it isn't too much of a hassle to cook that much every day. But honestly, once you get the hang of it, it is pretty easy. Here's what I do. I always use one big pot. Then I pour in about half a glass of water that I preheated in the water cooker. Not too much, just enough to create some steam. And then I stack the veggies based on how long they need to cook. Things like carrots and beets go at the bottom since they take the longest. I cook them for about a few minutes and then I open the lid again and throw in things like broccoli, cauliflower, or zucchini, which only need 2 to 3 minutes. Later, I might add some cut onion or something similar that cooks in literally 30 seconds, but this is totally optional. In total, my cooking time is always between 9.5 and 10.5 minutes, depending on how full the pot is. That's the sweet spot based on my pot and my serving sizes. Then I either add olive oil, beef tallow, tahini, or red palm oil as sort of a sauce, and then a sprinkle of sea salt. That's pretty much it. Also, in terms of what vegetables I use, I like to keep things very simple. Most of the time, my go-to groups are root vegetables like carrots, beets, parsnips, or kohlrabi, and also cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts. These don't just give you fiber and vitamin C, but also important sulfur compounds for liver health, and a bunch of alkaline minerals like potassium. I also like mixing it up every now and then with things like zucchini, kale, pumpkin, red onion, or bell peppers. I'm not too strict about variety, but I try not to eat the same exact thing every single day. Okay, now let's talk results. And keep in mind, I didn't change everything overnight, but this one habit definitely created a ripple effect that helped me rebuild my health. It became one of those anchor habits that made everything else easier. Better energy, better digestion, and better recovery. First, I stopped needing vitamin C and antioxidant supplements. Vegetables are loaded with vitamin C and other antioxidant compounds like beta-carotene, quercetin, and sulforaphane. The cool part is that you get these from food in the exact form that your body knows how to use. Now, you don't want to overcook the vegetables since heat destroys many of these beneficial compounds. That's why I steam my veggies just enough until they're soft enough to digest more easily, but not mushy or lifeless. After a few weeks on this routine, I noticed that I didn't need my usual vitamin C powder anymore, and I had fewer signs of inflammation. Technically, such a plate of cooked vegetables only contains around 100 to 200 milligrams of vitamin C, depending on the veggies that you use and how long you cook them for. But like many other people, my body seems to handle natural vitamin C much better than isolated ascorbic acid. This is something I talk about in more detail in my video on the different vitamin C types. In fact, I actually got too much vitamin C at one point, which I will talk about later. But overall, it felt good to not rely on supplements to meet such a basic need. It was one of the first times where I really saw what using food as medicine really meant in practice. The next benefit I noticed was that I stopped needing toxin binders. This one honestly surprised me. I've always been into detox strategies, especially when dealing with chronic fatigue or heavy metal issues. And one of the most common things that people use are binders like activated charcoal, chlorella, zeolite, or modified citrus pectin. They're useful and they definitely work, but they're not always easy on your body, especially when you use them long term. Once I started getting so much fiber from all the vegetables, my digestion became so regular and efficient that I didn't feel like I needed binders anymore, at least not as a daily tool. Fiber is basically nature's binder. It grabs onto toxins and also waste in the gut and then helps carry them out. For me, it felt like my body had a natural cleanup crew working 24/7. I still keep binders on hand for specific situations, but day to day, I rely more on food now. And that's exactly how I like it. Get as much as possible from food and only supplement when it's really necessary. The third benefit I want to talk about is my potassium benefit. Potassium is one of the most overlooked minerals out there. Everyone talks about magnesium or calcium, but potassium plays just as big of a role, if not bigger. It's essential for energy production, nerve signals, muscle contraction, hydration, and blood pressure regulation. Most people don't even come close to the recommended daily intake. That's because processed foods are low in potassium and high in sodium, the exact opposite of what your body needs. But vegetables are loaded in it. When you eat a full plate of steamed veggies every day, it's easy to hit or even exceed your potassium needs without tracking or stressing about it. One plate will give you around 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams of potassium, so around a third to half of the RDI, depending on what country you live in. And this isn't just about the numbers. I could feel the difference. Less cramping, better hydration, more stable energy. I honestly think this is one of the biggest reasons I started bouncing back from fatigue. And the last thing I need to talk about is that it's actually pretty easy to stick to. Let's be real, most healthy habits are pretty hard to stick to. They require planning, motivation, and extra willpower. But this one is a lot easier than you might expect. I already talked about how I prepare my vegetables. And once I got into the rhythm, it became one of the easiest meals to make of the day. Here's what I love about it. There's no fancy recipes or kitchen tools that you need. No big cleanup disaster, and really no thinking required on my part. I just chop all the vegetables, toss them in the pot with a bit of water, and then steam them for a few minutes. Since I always make a big pot, I will have enough for 2 and sometimes 3 meals, then I can then reheat later. The point is that it's very sustainable, and like I said before, I've done it for 1,000 days and I'm still not bored of it. Great. Now let's talk about downsides and surprises. Of course, this wasn't all sunshine. A few unexpected things definitely happened along the way. Some funny ones as well, but some annoying ones. The first is that I started going to the bathroom more, like a lot more. Not in a bad way, but if you go from eating very little fiber to a giant plate of vegetables every day, you're gonna notice it. I went from 1 bowel movement a day to sometimes 3 or even 4. It's not diarrhea or anything, it's just that your body has a lot more bulk to process and push out. More fiber means more motility. For me, it felt like my gut was finally functioning the way it's supposed to, but it can definitely catch you off guard. If you're not used to that much roughage, maybe try easing into it instead of going from 0 to 100 overnight. Your gut bacteria also need some time to adjust to your new meal plan, so keep that in mind. The next thing, and I already hinted at this, there was a point where I was getting too much vitamin C. This one is super specific and probably not relevant for most people, but I wanted to mention it anyway because it really affected me. In the beginning, when I was eating 2 full plates of veggies per day, I started getting some strange symptoms. Insomnia, irritability, and weird detox reactions. It took me a while to figure out, but what was happening was that the very high vitamin C intake was mobilizing copper in my body. Vitamin C is known to stimulate copper release from tissues, especially if you're already going through detox or have copper overload. And for me, it started pulling out more copper than my body could handle. This doesn't mean veggies are bad. It just means that for people with mineral imbalances, especially around copper, you need to be aware of how fast you push your body. Food can definitely be powerful, and sometimes even gentle things like vegetables can steer the pot. For 99% of people, this won't be an issue. But if you're highly sensitive like me, go slower or at least listen closely to how your body is reacting. And the last thing, and this was kind of funny, was that my girlfriend hated the smell. This one still cracks me up. I personally like the smell of steamed broccoli or Brussels sprouts. It's like the smell of health to me now, but my girlfriend not so much. Sulfur-rich vegetables like cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower all have a very strong odor when they're cooked, especially if you don't open the window or let the air out of the kitchen. So if you live with someone else like I do, maybe don't steam a whole pot of cabbage right before they get home from work. I've learned to use the fan or sometimes just warn her in advance. This is a small price to pay for better health, but it's just a fair warning on my part. Great, on to the verdict. So after 1,000 days, here's my honest take. Eating a plate of vegetables every day is one of the best diet habits that I've ever adopted, period. It's simple, it's affordable, and it's about the best foundation for the rest of your diet that I can think of. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Do I still do it now? Yes, still pretty much every day unless I'm traveling. It's not about being perfect or never eating junk food again. I still enjoy pizza or dessert from time to time, but I always come back to this plate of veggies because I know it works for me and my body likes it. If you're a lazy cook like me and still want to improve your diet without turning your kitchen into a full-time job, then definitely give this a try. It's a lot easier than you might think. It's basically impossible to mess up, and once you get into the habit, it becomes second nature. You will be surprised by how much better you feel just by adding this one habit to your meal plan. Also, don't forget to check out the video description for more free resources and my programs. They will help you if you're looking for step-by-step systems on topics such as diet planning, detox, and chronic fatigue recovery, and to avoid the most common beginner mistakes that I see people making all the time. For more info, just open the description. It will all be listed there.